Okay. So solar plexus is also known as the manipura, and the color is yellow. So before I talked about how they kind of develop as we develop. So when you're born, your tribe affects you first. This is your root chakra, security, stability, how safe, what kind of environment were you raised in? Did you feel safe and secure and connected and bonded with your tribe? And then your sacral chakra kind of develops when you start to go out into the world and you're meeting people outside of your tribe, whether it's friends and teachers and different things. And then your solar plexus can develop anytime between you're around 13 to 18, an average of that. Because this is when we start to go like, who am I? What sets me apart from everyone else? This is like self-will, self-identity, self-esteem, relationship to self, personal power, self-respect, self-acceptance, respecting your gut instincts. It governs the abdomen, the stomach, the liver, the upper intestines, the kidney, the gallbladder, the pancreas, the spleen, the adrenal glands, the middle spine. Also, digestion is one that, can be affected a lot by this solar plexus. The gland that it affects is the pancreas. The health effects can be diabetes, colon, poor digestion, ulcers, arthritis, gallstones, eating disorders, hypoglycemia, indigestion, liver dysfunction. Deficient, so if the energy isn't flowing appropriately through this energy center, we might have a weak will, powerlessness, lack of energy, no self-discipline, need for approval. On a worldly level, I would say that, we're like one of the trends right now, it was like ancestral healing, and then it was like trauma, and then it was like narcissistic empath stuff. And now it's like, oh, wow, we've really been people pleasing. People pleasing seems to be a real eye opener that we're waking up to in all the ways that we have not been ourselves just to please others or just to be accepted or loved or a sense of belonging, And on a worldly level, we're taking our motherfucking power back. And we're like, no, I'm going to do what's good for me now instead of trying to make ourselves uncomfortable to fit in or to be liked or accepted and all that, right? And I think that, depending on how many rabbit holes you want to go down, there's been kind of malevolent, I want to say that's the right word, forces that, they've, the small elite few wanted to keep the masses, under control and keep them working and producing. And, and to do that, there's certain things that make us good, obedient, compliant workers, right? And I feel like citrine, which is one of the stones for the solar plexus, is something that everyone should work with, at least for a little while, at some point in their journey, just because there's so much that's being pulled for our attention and power. Whether it's buy this face cream so you can look like this, or join this diet program so you can look like this, or join this church so you can be, have eternal salvation, or, it's like our consciousness is always being fought for, whether it's through media, through television, through celebrity distractions, through, this and that, and it's, politics or, whatever, right? And so citrine is like, nope, I'm going to take all that power. This is my power. My power is not going to be swayed by all these things. But, our consciousness is constantly fought for. So citrine is really helpful. Excessive energy, like say someone has a lot of energy here, they're going to be dominating, they're going to be controlling, they're going to be competitive, they're going to be blaming. I'm sure you guys have all experienced someone like that, at least once in your life. When balanced, the energy's flowing harmoniously through this energy center. You're going to feel responsible, dependable, confident, energetic, healthy body, the ability to be alone. Codependency, I don't know if that's written on there, but that can be another, people pleasing and codependency can be deficient energy in the solar plexus. So it's like when we're depending on others to feel whole and complete, then we're not whole and complete, But a good, strong solar plexus is going to give you that whole and complete sense of being. An affirmation or a mantra is, I am confident in my ability to make my life work. So you don't need anybody. You're not reliant or dependent on anybody, which I have to always, so much duality now. I have to say with that, it's okay to ask for help if you need help. We need to recognize those times too. So we can get in this, just forget it, I'll do it myself, attitude. And that's not always the most healthiest thing for us either. So, but we're learning, this extreme to this extreme. How can we find, and we're learning all these dualities so that we can kind of find that balance between, all the different extremes, right? So the seed sound is rum, and the sacred truth is honor oneself, because this is relationship with self. The stones are citrine and topaz. Citrine is a really popular one. Oils would be lemon, lemongrass, peppermint. I would also recommend ginger, but sometimes ginger will burn the skin, so you might want to use coconut oil with your ginger. Juicing ginger, really good for the gut, digestion, and solar plexus. Lemongrass is also almost like works like sage. It's like a spiritual cleanser. So if you diffuse that in your house, your energy is going to be nice and clean and like you just saged. I also use lemongrass down the spine for clearing of, if I feel like I've picked something negative up. If you ever go to Walmart, just put on the lemongrass when you get home, yeah. Okay. So now, some of the yoga poses. Cobra pose is a really good one. Upward dog. Staff pose or dandasana is this one.
It's called staff pose?
Mm-hmm. Or dandasana.
And I've always wondered about this one. I don't know if it's correct, really long arm.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're in that, for me to straighten my arms, I'm up.
Yeah. So the main point is to have the palms pressed into the earth. You could slightly bend the elbows.
Oh, okay. But where's the
Yeah, because you don't have to necessarily pick yourself up, because you want to ground, through here and engage the feet, bring the toes towards the calves, press the palms into the earth, and then press the chest open. Now, then bend the elbows just slightly.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's more about the sitting up straight. It's more about the spine and then all the points of engagement. And then the grounding, the sense of grounding, and then opening through the chest. Now, if someone had short arms,
I have short arms.
you may want... So you could always bring the blocks in.
Yeah.
There. Now, if you sit on a block, you're not going to get that. Yeah, I don't know. You do touch the earth, though, don't you? But then I feel like...
They're a good 2 inches longer than my height, so it's like...
I thought that it was supposed to... I don't know. Everybody's so different.
The wrong direction.
But then I'd be more worried about all this pressure than on the knees.
Yeah, the hip raise thing.
So And here it is it's a give and take. What are you going to gain? What are you going to lose? So, maybe one day you do it with just bending the elbow slightly. Maybe one day you're like, I kind of dig the block today. Because everybody's different and every day is different too. There's days where I'm more flexible. I can go deeper into poses. And then some days I can feel more tension in my body. I'm like, no, And I've been practicing for how many years, but different days, your body's different. And a lot of it depends on where you are energetically and emotionally. That will affect the physical for sure. Also, like for the women, moon cycles, you're more flexible when you're on your moon cycle because you're producing extra relaxin, one of the hormones, I think. Yeah.
always felt the opposite.
Really?
Because you're always cranked.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought you got like cranky and heavy. Yeah.
I think, and I'll look in my womb sign stuff, but I'm pretty sure you're producing an extra hormone that you don't normally produce, which you have to be more, I'm pretty sure I read you have to be more mindful because you're more stretchy. It's the best word. Yeah. Because you can get deeper into poses, you have to be more mindful. And you want to stay away from inversions. I don't know if I've already said that, but for the first 3 days, stay away from inversions. And that's it's kind of hard to stay away from downward dog. Downward dog is considered an inversion, but it's a really mild one. But like the headstand, the handstand, the shoulder stand, those are inversions. Because you want gravity to be you want to utilize your gravity as your friend, not try to fight against it, right? Okay, so then any kind of spinal twist is going to be good for solar plexus. Seated spinal twist, supine spinal twist. Bridge pose. Goddess pose.
So when we were doing goddess pose today in the class, I was wondering, is it okay to bend if your knee is a little bit over your ankle? Because I noticed I do that more in goddess pose.
So in goddess pose, and I was a little concerned because there was one time where we were like this, and I was like, I had to adjust. That was one thing I wasn't cued to adjust. But your toes and your knees should be out, and your knees should be, stacked on top of your ankles. Yours go over. Even with chair pose, okay, so with chair pose, your knees will go over, but you want to make sure you can still see your toes. Does that make sense? Do you want to play with that? And another thing with goddess, that's one of the things, he did cue this, but like you want to think from the head to the shoulders, to the hips, to the root. So a lot of times people will be like this. That's not goddess. This is goddess. You want to try to stack everything.
See, when I feel like I stack my shoulders with my hips, I feel like that's when my knees seem like they're going over. I feel like I have to go back.
Yeah.
Going back too far.
Go where it feels good to you, and then I'll tell you what feels or what looks. Yeah. You could almost maybe lean back a little bit more on the upper body, as long as you don't feel like you're going to fall, right? But your knees, they're a little over, but they're not extremely extending. So I would say you'd still be okay. Okay, so we said bridge pose and we said goddess pose. Cat cows. Boat pose. And that's this one, boat. Plank pose. And eagle pose. Okay, so the main blocker for the solar plexus is shame. So for the sacral, it was guilt. For solar plexus, it's shame. So any kind of issues around shame. I know for me, church, I had to go through a lot of like the church stuff. The shaming of being a woman, the shaming of dressing the way I chose to dress, the shame of, even dancing. The shame of being a sinner, Okay, so supportive foods. Am I going too fast? Do you need me to repeat anything? Everybody feel okay so far? Digestive friendly foods such as kefir, yogurt, oat bran, cinnamon. Cinnamon is like a metabolism booster. I love it. Okay. Lemon, yellow vegetables, healthy fats and oils, light green vegetables with a high water base, such as celery and cucumber. Yeah, on the inside, the part that you eat. I don't like the skin. I cut mine off. Well, it depends. Sometimes I do, but anyway, okay. Melons, banana, applesauce, aloe juice, avocado, fennel and mint, soothing chamomile and herbal teas.
Because I'm vegan, so I don't eat dairy, and I've always I feel like my gut's not that good. So I've always been wanting to drink like kefirs, and they're all like, oh, it's full of probiotics and stuff. But I found them on Etsy somehow. And then I started watching YouTube videos, but it's water kefir, and then you can make them out of coconut sugar. There's coconut kefir too.
Wow.
But you just put them in like a kombucha sort of like a sugar water base, and then they feed off that. Then you can use that, but you can make water kefir drinks that I'm assuming taste somewhat like kombucha, but without that vinegariness that a lot of people don't like.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
sounds really cool.
yeah, I'm one of those people that don't like the vinegary stuff. Okay, so then the Manipura's archetype, when balanced, is the warrior. And when it's unbalanced, it's the servant. It's the submissive. It's the just people-pleasing servant. Balanced energy is empowered and embodied. That's your sattvic. Your rajasic, like too much, is disempowered or tyrant. It's more of that tyrant person telling you what you should and shouldn't do. And then tamasic, like inertia, is the victim. So sometimes you can start. Tamasic would be victim. Rajasic would be tyrant. So you can start to recognize this in people that you know. You can be like, oh, wow, they've got too much energy in their solar plexus, or they don't have enough energy in their solar plexus. Like you can start to see it in people. And I encourage you to start just sitting back and observing and diagnosing like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. You know, because the more that you play with that, observing, then the more it'll just come easier, you know, and faster. If you start doing it now with the people that you know really well, and then you can like, oh, it makes so much sense because it's easier to understand it, especially because you know them. It'll get easier to start to read it into people that you just meet and stuff. So I encourage you to play with that. Yeah. So sattvic would be empowered and embodied. Rajasic would be tyrant. Tamasic would be victim.
Wait, and what was the balance one again?
Empowered and embodied. Oh, you know what? So your anatomy of the spirit, I totally didn't look for the pages. You're going to want to do the chapter on the solar plexus. I think this one. Did the sacral talk about money? The energy of money. Oh, yeah, okay. So you guys read that one. That was like huge for me. Because I could recognize in my past life in this life, but in the past, how if I didn't have any money, I was like, ah. And if I had money, I was like, ah. You know, like I let that determine, you know, my energy levels. So that chapter was really good for me. So chapter 3, it starts on 167. And goes to 194. And then the questions at the end are optional. So last week we did a yama, and this week we're doing a chakra. I'm just going to try to like space those out, but make sure that you continue to do your daily sadhana and you read 3 meditations on the mat. I think, is it 3 a day or 2 a day? Which? I think it's 2 a day. Yeah. Depends on where you are. And I think we did the math at one time to try to figure out where we should be. Okay. And then, so a couple things. In the month of November, all of the Sundays except for the 20th that we have our workshops, I'm going to do a book club on the Yoga Sutras. And you guys are more than welcome to do that for free and join in on that.
And what time is it?
It's 11 o'clock on Sunday. So it'll be like 11 to 12. It'll just be an hour. And it'll be reading the Yoga Sutras and discussing them. Let me know what you guys think, because sometimes we don't have time for it in class, and sometimes we do. Sometimes we have some time for some of it, but it is really important reading. They even call it the yoga scriptures. You know, this is like scripture. This is like the word. And my teacher always said, you know, when in doubt, return to the Yoga Sutras. It's something you can always go back on. And, you know, you can also delve into it and, you know, like discuss, like, well, you think it means this and I think it means this. And maybe together we can come up with an or an integrated meaning, you know. So let me know what you guys think of that, because I think I had someone else want me to do it that wasn't even affiliated with teacher training. And so I was like, okay, but I really wished I would have just maybe scheduled it closer to the latter part of our teacher training. That way I could kind of decipher, are we going to have time for it or not? But, you know, we'll just kind of go with the flow. I'm pretty flexible, but just let me ask you, what do you guys think about that? I should probably turn this off because this is like unnecessary for this recording.